Now it's time for the Voice for the Industry podcast.
Well, I have to tell you, Carissa, I'm really excited about this episode. I met Alex at the MPMA Academy, and we had some pretty interesting discussions about how he works with detection dogs. I had some experience with detection dogs years ago, but they're like everything else these days, they're at a whole new level. And he has some really fascinating stories about it, but also the techniques and most importantly, the specialization of dogs seems to be the thing that's really making them most effective.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear a different side of pest control. I didn't really know much about detection dogs, so it's pretty cool in their accuracy rate and his process. It's a great episode, something different.
Yeah, they used to be really popular back when bed bugs were really, really big. And they're coming back, bed bugs, I mean. But yeah, it's really interesting to get his perspective on it and to hear some of the techniques. And I think everybody's going to love it. Hey, everybody. Glad you're here today with us. This is going to be a great episode, a very interesting topic you don't hear much about, not enough about for sure. We are honored today, and I'm very happy to have Alex Hernandez with us today. Welcome, Alex.
Hi, what's going on, Ray?
How-
Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody. Alex is a handler and trainer at Diamond Dogs IPM, and he has over 15 years in experience in canine scent detection, handling teams with 95% plus accuracy. 95% plus is pretty darn good. And he's certified with the NESDCA. Alex excels with difficult cases pinpointing the root of infestation using science-based methods, important term, and single-purpose scent detection dogs, another important term. Expertly trained to find even the smallest infestations in diverse environments, from cluttered homes to commercial spaces. Welcome again.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you. Alex and I met at MPMA Academy last year.
We did.
And we were on the same team, and we were so close to winning we came in fourth, but we were right there.
Team Yellow. I mean, there were some shenanigans. We're not going to mention liftgate.
Yeah,
I want to keep it peaceful.
We're not going to mention the synchronized swimming scoring.
I mean, I knew this year, or last year rather, was going to be really big for us, so I wanted to dive in both feet. Dog handling is one part of the process. The other side of the ball, as I like to call it, is obviously the world of pest control. Working with dogs, you don't get exposed to that too often. So I figured the best way to do that will be an event like Academy to dive in and start, building the brand, as it were. Since we did the rebrand last year, I started off my career working for Advanced Canine Detectives. They were actually the first company in the country that had as NASDAQ bedbug certified dog. Now, NASDAQ, you're going to hear me say that word often. It's a National Entomology Scent Detection Canine Association. It's a bit of a mouthful, but I always love to begin my pitch, my spiel, my shtick by telling people that I train my dogs, but they are certified through a third-party organization as NASDAQ to verify their authenticity and their accuracy for bedbug and rodent searches. They also deal with termite dogs, but that really didn't pick up.
Okay. Now, NASDAQ isn't some guy with a website in his garage, right? This is like a real thing.
Yeah, no. It's not just some chat group on Facebook or some seminar on the dark web. These guys, they are all ex-police canine handlers, so they have real world on the job experience. They're located out of Florida, Alachua County, but they do have certified trainers and facilities all over the country.
Okay, that's Alachua County. That's about an hour from me.
Is it? County. Okay, I mean, I'm from the Northeast. I'm a city boy. I like pavement under my feet. So whenever I'm down in down in the rural parts of Florida or in the old country of the Midwest, I might slip a name here or there.
That's okay. It's funny, but but the funny thing is, and this is completely off topic, but it is rural. The locals, they pronounce it Alachua. right? But I think that's more because of their accent. But anyway,
I can
oh,
see
that's
that.
great. And that's a good, I was going to ask you what NASDAQ stands for. I'm glad you explained it. So, well, you mentioned what you're doing and how long you've been doing it. How'd you get here? Where'd you come from and how'd you get into the dog business?
So I met Carl Mascot, who was the owner of Advanced Canine Detectives about 15 years ago. I was actually working on his house with my family. My family runs a construction business. Um, so he told me about what he does, and I looked this man dead in his eye, and I was like, mm-mm, no way. I call BS. There's no way you get a dog to do that. I've heard of dogs sniffing out, bombs and obviously narcotics, but I've never heard of bedbug dogs. That's crazy. And I'm a pretty personable guy. Me and Carl got along really well. He looks at me and he says, "How would you like to come with me to a job?" Sure, why not? Let's go. We go to a Macy's distribution center, upstate Connecticut. He hands me a live bedbug vial. It's about yay big. It's got, like I said, live bed bugs in it. He says, "You know what? Take this 10,000 square foot facility, hide it wherever you want, go nuts." To me, I'm all right, cool. I'm a little dumb to it at this point. Okay, the dog is never gonna find it way up here, so I put it way up there. So his dog, aptly named Radar, comes into the area. Does a pinpoint inspection, walks right up to the corner cabinet where I had hit it. Active alerts right on the side. Scratch, 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 scratch. I'm dumbfounded at this point. I got to pick up my jaw on the ground. Carl's laughing at me the whole time. He goes, "How would you like a job?" I say, yeah, for sure. And then before I know it, I spent the next 2 weeks down in Alachua, Alachua County, training with J&K Canine, and I had my first bed bug detection dog. Her name was Darcy. We spent the next 2.5, almost 3 years, touring, the Northeast and beyond. We used to go to Manhattan a couple of times a week. I like to say that first year was a hard learning curve. Going to New York, it's very different than when you're just commuting for a day trip or, for like a school trip or something like that of college. So that first year, I'd like to say it was raining parking tickets as I learned my way around the
That's
city.
funny. That's funny.
We got to go into some pretty good areas. We got to meet some really good clients. At the end of the day, I knew it was a job for me. I knew I had to hold on with two hands.
That's a really good story. And I have in my time where I used to work, we didn't have our own dogs, but we used some contractors, and it's pretty amazing what those dogs can do if they're trained right and they're
Yeah,
certified by the guy at his garage with a website. That's really important.
100%.
Right?
Now,
Yeah. All right.
I like I guess any tradesman job, any part of any the bad apple spoils the bunch. Um, that's why we lead the way with telling people our dogs are professionally trained by me and then certified through a third party organization. Um, and we really advocate the training and the safety of the dog. And the dog's got to perform to the task. He's got to get the results we're looking for. That's why we always advertise such a high accuracy percentile.
That's very good. That's pretty good. 95. All right. Well, all right, that's a really fascinating story. So, what does 95% accuracy really take? I mean, give us a behind the scenes look at how high performing detection teams are trained, certified, and maintained.
Well, I can't tell you how the sauce is made, but I can give you a trade secret or two. So,
Okay,
like in
okay.
sales, I come from a sales background before this, and there's a saying, ABC, always be closing. With dogs, it's ABT, always be training.
Mm.
These dogs we train in, whether we have a job as work or not, we work every day in the scope of training, where I'm hiding bugs in places they should never be. Um, on top of ceiling fans, inside of remote controls, uh, underneath a car seat in a car, because every like the dog. If you go to an elderly complex facility and you see bed bugs crawling up the walls, they don't need us there. They know they have the issue. We're looking for those those complex situation where they keep finding bugs, but they can't find the origin. Or when it comes to rodents, how they keep finding rodents inside a storage locker or a storage facility, but they've already tried exclusion and they just can't trap and bait anymore. So they need to pinpoint um, something outside of the normal pest control checks and balances. That's when we usually get called in. So the high to maintain that high 95% accuracy, number one is ABT. Number two is trust your dog. I've been in situations where I look at him, this situation, maybe it's there, maybe it's not. The dog alerts. I put him on the car. We do a visual inspection. Boom, we find bed bugs in the zipper, or boom, we find it in the mattress fold. Or sometimes, he's alerting on the bed, but it's not in the bed, it's in the headboard behind the fabric lining. So a lot of people that do visual inspections, they're only about 30 to 40% accurate. These dogs can go in there and really uncover what the eye can't see and actually get into situations where you might overlook it 10 times out of 9. And that one time the dog turns its head, have a change in behavior, and walks right up to that point of origin and really solves a complex problem for you. I always tell people that it's a team. I can't do it without him. He can't do it without me. The best canine teams develop slowly over time, but you don't get that far without having those correct training protocols in place.
That makes sense. I have a couple of specific questions for you that I'm just curious about. One is, and I think I know the answer to this, but it's pretty much your dog, right? I mean, that dog, you're like that dog's partner, but it's a regular dog. It lives with you. You take it places, you do all that stuff.
You sure,
And then the other
you
part
sure
of
is.
the
No,
other
I mean,
part of the, go ahead.
I get all my dogs, unless they're a breed specific, the best breed is rescue. So I usually work with Paw Safe, which is a local, I think they're in the Northeast, but I know they're based out of Connecticut and New York. My bedbug dog, Isaac, is a rescue. He is a beagle. There's a certain philosophy where people think bloodhounds are better than others. I think it's the right drive in the dog for the job, not necessarily a breed. But I got lucky with Isaac. He is my dog. I don't even, I mean, we'll do like obedience and maybe some um, like minor obedience, maybe some scent work, but we don't do any actual work for the first year of their life. They're just enjoying their best doggy life and growing up big and strong. And once they have that, usually 14 to 16 months, we'll start imprinting scent. And then by 18 months to 2 years, they're ready to go for their certification. And then they hit the ground running. Isaac is my lead bedbug dog. I've had him for 13 years now.
Well, I had no idea it takes that long. Another question I have, I'm assuming I know the answer to this too, but I mean, the dog can't always be on, right? So how do you turn the dog on? How does it know it's time to start working?
Okay, so that's a really good question. We don't actually get that often. Whenever I go to a job, there's always a prep sheet laid out. I always try to get there within, if it's a bed bug job, within 24 to 48 hours. Rodent jobs are scheduled a little differently. I do an initial walkthrough, and then at that time, I remember that vial I was telling you about. We do what's called a vial test. Now, we'll take this vial and we'll put it in the kitchen cabinet, furthest away in a room furthest away from the issue they might be having, so there's no cross contamination or any conflict of interest with the results. And then I'll bring Isaac in, and once he alerts on that vial, it's time to. I know he's ready to go to work. And then I take it, pop it back in my little dog training knapsack, and then we get started. We always do the cars as well. I've noticed when I talk to my colleagues, for residential clients, obviously commercial, it's a little different. But I always want to do the cars on the way out because I think it's one of those, it just gets kind of like lapsed over with all the details and all the qualifying questions and all, usually they're very anxious or they're worried about their dog or XYZ. We always want to make sure that they don't have the problem just sitting out in the park or in the driveway.
I mean, I know it's a job for the dog, but then there's also, it just gets to be a dog. But when does the dog go to work? How does it know it's time to start working?
That's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. I don't really get that one often. Remember that vial I told you about?
Yep.
So first thing we do when we qualify our bed bug jobs, we try to get there within 24 to 48 hours. I send out a prep sheet, nothing major. Make sure all doors are closed, windows are off. Don't use any harsh chemicals to clean. Vacuum the night before if you can. And if you have any animals, make sure they're outside or in the car is a good place to put them. At least a half hour before the inspection. I do a quick walkthrough to make sure there's no distractions. Everyone likes to know how we maintain that high accuracy rate. We maintain that high accuracy rate by training and minimizing distractions during inspections. And then I take that live bedbug vial and I usually put it maybe underneath the sink in the kitchen. Maybe it's a vanity in the bathroom. But we put it in far away from any issues they might be having because we don't want to have any conflict of interest with the results. And then I bring Isaac in. It's called a vial test. He keys up on that. It's like priming an engine. It lets him know it's time to go to work for this bedbug scent, and then we get started. We always make sure to do the cars on the way out. When I was talking with my colleagues, I feel like it's one of those things that often goes overlooked. There's so many qualifying questions and procedures I like to go over, but sometimes you'll just forget, and we never want to leave the problem sitting in the customer's driveway on the way out. So we always do the entire property, you know, and the car as well on the way out.
Now that's again very smart, because I can remember again, when I used to work, we would have situation. We had one situation specifically where they kept reinfesting. So, well, we finally figured out that they had like a jacket or something that they would wear around in the house, whatever. And then they would throw it in their car, right? And then they put it back on and go back in the house. So it was really we treat it and get rid of them, and they bring it right back in from what was in the car. So
Yeah,
that's pretty interesting.
it's crazy.
Why do science-based methods and single-purpose scent detection dogs, why are they better than other dogs out there?
Well, when you have a single purpose scent dog, yeah, it's more of like a jack of all trades versus a specialist. Now you have your jack of all trades; they could do this, they could do that. I've seen various schools of thought about this through various not only training facilities but certification entities. NESDECA is not the only one out there, although they are the best. Um, so you could have one dog that's really good. Say it does bed bugs and termites. Okay, so one thing you're doing is you're confusing the dog's olfactory senses, his sense of smell, because you're trying to imprint two separate scents. On top of that, you'd have to have two different rewards, because how do you know which scent the dog is actively searching and alerting for? Now, might not have a lot of crossover when it comes to those two situations, but a much better example for this instance is when it comes to rodent dogs. Now, my rodent dogs are detection for mice or abatement for rats. That's it. We don't have it's church and state. Because if I have a dog and he's alerting on a brick wall, I have no way of telling my client what's in there unless we actively train against certain odors. So with my bedbug dog, excuse me, with my mice dog, I'll have rat hides out, and I don't have nearly a good sense of smell as Ozzy, but something in his nose knows that when it's mice, I sit here, I get my toy. When it's rats, I leave that alone. We train against that rat odor, and that rat odor, it's a bigger it's a bigger species. Obviously, it's a more potent scent. So we want to make sure we're really dialing these results in, because okay, if it's in a brick wall, that's one thing, but what happens when we go into a supermarket and we need to see what's inside a harborage, inside a grain aisle, because these aisles after dark, and if the infestation is really prevalent, so it's not uncommon to see mice and other rodents in the supermarket while during the day. That's when the infestation is starting to get out of hand. When a nocturnal animal is looking for a harborage or a meal source during the day, then the train is definitely coming off the tracks. That being said, rodent detection is still in the early stages of development, but I feel like that has a lot of potential into the future for the developing atmosphere and environment that we're walking into for 2026. I mean, politics aside, it does seem to be getting a little warmer. We are starting to see a little higher temperatures. We are bed bugs, which are usually cyclical, meaning that they happen in spring and summer, sometimes early fall. I'm getting calls for right at this time of year for not only residential but for commercial sources, which is great for me. But if it continues to pan this and go this way, the dogs are the most proactive approach we have. And that's why, circling back to single purpose dogs, I need to know exactly what we're looking for in that environment. And it's strange how working dog is very it's the same school of thought as like military training, where you want to work like you train and train like you work. So I don't want to throw any curveballs his way. I want it to be a comfortable environment where, not unlike a child, you're giving the dog the freedom and responsibility to make the correct choice.
That makes a lot of sense, and that I can definitely. I mean, you got me with specialist versus a jack of all trades, right? I mean, if you go to the doctor and you got something wrong with you, and you go to the specialist, they know exactly. They're going to know exactly what's going on. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Speaking of a specialist, besides you just being an all-around great guy, why is the human half of the dog handling team so critical?
Oof. Well, that's tricky. When I drive the car and I qualify the job. No, but seriously.
The dog has to get there.
I know.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's the hardest part. Just thinking behind the wheel. And sometimes we'll hear little barks in the back. Hey guys, this is my crate too. I just have to drive it.
Right. That's right.
It's
funny.
So the human aspect is, I'd say I'm the spark plug. He's the heart, I'm the brain. He's the engine, I'm the spark plug. I keep us on track, he gets us where we need to be. So the number one alert before an active alert, whether that be a passive or an active alert is where they're scratching or they're making a physical change. A passive alert would be like a sit or a lay down. Okay. Your first alert is a change in behavior. When a dog pulls off his normal scent pattern and he'll start to get sucked in to the odor source, for lack of a better term, they start to kind of like push their nose towards, and something goes off in their brain, and then they'll actively alert or they'll sit. Sometimes even a passive alert dog will scratch at it a little bit if you don't reward them fast enough. So you need to be like right on it. But what's happening while I'm getting there, I'm qualifying the sale, the dog's looking at, waiting for me to give him the command to go to work. I'm talking to the client, I'm checking my phone, I'm all this, but in his mind, he just wants to go to work. I need to make sure that while he's on work, he stays on task. It's like I was saying earlier, it's a detection team, and at the end of the day, one can't do it with the other. I've learned more working with my dog independently of others, just the canine team. I've learned almost as much in those scenarios as I have in the seminars and training facilities, because it's true on the job experience where sometimes where a scent odor source is weird because the way airflow is happening in a room. Now the dog might alert on the front of a row of desks, but the source of the odor is in the back of the desk, maybe in a box. And maybe there's a radiator blowing that odor out from behind that box on the register that's connected to the wall, and blowing that odor where he's catching it. And to him, it feels like it's right here because of the way he understands odor. A very easy analogy I like to use is that in the world of dogs, odor is the color. That's how they see. So if he's reading it right here because that fan behind the odor source is blowing that scent right towards him, he might sit here, and then everyone's going to say, oh, well, there's nothing on that desk. This is when you, like the human aspect of it, we can narrow it down to a 3-foot cone of scent. And that's when it's my job to go in there and do the visual inspection. Okay. This not only gives me a much better area to search, and it also gives you a much higher accuracy rate compared to those 30-40% of visual inspections I was talking about earlier, because what you're doing is walking into the room, all right, I'm going to visually inspect everything I can see. But as you're inspecting, you're missing stuff, you're creating odor, you're forgetting where you're going, you may be backtracking a little bit. The dog doesn't need to do that, because when he gets to the odor source, that's like ringing the dinner bell. We just need to make sure it's in a realistic place. Sometimes I need to step back. Oof. Since we connected, I don't like telling this story, but I'll tell it to you. My first year when I was working with advanced canine detectives, I missed one. Yeah, no, we were in Manhattan, some penthouse, wherever. It was in the Crown Molding.
Oh
wow. So, okay, Alex, you missed that one. It's not exactly your fault, but it is. Because guess what? I said there was no bed bugs in there. But in that situation, you need to be able to give the dog the freedom to move around the room entirely. That's why you hear all these stories about dogs finding one bed bug in a hotel room. That dog's been given the freedom, and the handler has the experience to not only trust his dog, but to let his dog do the job he was trained for.
That really makes a lot of sense, and it's actually really fascinating to kind of hear how this all works, and and it makes a lot of sense. Like it's really up to he's like the celebrity, and you're like the manager, right? You make sure he has all the right he has all the right snacks in the green room, and he's staying focused on stage. Yeah, that's
we'll have to
funny.
do what it's hotel rooms. And we don't do hotels as often as we used to because of the pandemic. We used to do at least 150 a day, 150 rooms. So as we're doing that, this dog, so excited at the beginning of the day. But obviously, unless it's a terrible hotel, we're not finding bugs in all the rooms. We need to keep him motivated. That's where I come in. Little baby talk voice. Sometimes we'll hide another vial to get him psyched up and ready to go. But it's really a team effort. And at the end of the day, I need to be like your best friend, and then you need to forget I was ever there. I want you to remember the dog. Was there a guy there? I don't know. I just remember the dog coming through. No, if it's like that, then we've done our job. He definitely is the mascot.
Yeah, I've been around several times when dogs are brought into a place, and the dog gets all the attention. That's for sure, no doubt about it. All right, well, what's the last question is, what are the biological advantages of canine scent detection, and the difference, I guess, between that and visual inspections, and also when's a good time to bring a dog in? Like, when you've reached a certain, what's the kind of a good threshold where you say, you know what, we've got a problem that we can't resolve with traditional things. What's some good guidelines for people out there to be like, okay, now maybe it's time to bring in a dog?
Okay. When you're getting bites and you can't identify the source, when you have been traveling for a while, sometimes that's an indicator. If you ever wake up, now I have a lot of clients that say that a bite woke you up. Now, bed bugs secrete a chemical in their mandibles where you're not supposed to feel it until the day after. So most of the time, that is very psychosomatic. If you wake up in the middle of the night and something has bit you, most likely it's not a bed bug. But if you wake up and you have marks and they're itchy, that's very common. It could be. So I think it's a case by case basis. I always tell my clients, I give them the entire spiel, and then I leave the decision with them. I don't use any high pressure sales tactics. At the end of the day, the service sells itself.
Yeah.
I feel like we're this. I don't do any pest control. I just with bed bugs, I just do detection. With mice, I just do detection. With rats, we do abatement. Now, the way that translates and why I mention it is because I have no interest in the outcome. I don't make more. I don't sell a second service. I don't requalify you for the upsell. My prices I give to you before I come in and inspect. And then, my biggest interest is in the accuracy of the dog and the satisfaction of my customer. We do a lot of peace of mind inspections. Sometimes people just want the dog there. I don't care. I got bit by this 2 weeks ago. I was had it on my mind. I feel like it's not bed bugs, but I just need to know. And then we get certain people where they have exhausted every other opportunity and they ask me, they look at me just like I did with Carl 15 years ago, dead in the eye, and they're like, bullshit, a dog does this. And I'm like, no, no, wait. That's why I'm always careful to qualify my jobs the way I do and to do the vial tests in the beginning to show you that this dog works and to let you know that I have no interest in the outcome of the service because I'm not trying to sell you anything else.
You're not trying to create an outcome. Yeah. Yeah. That's
exactly.
very good. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I have no interest in the outcome, so it keeps me more honest. And I feel like the more that my clients and colleagues recognize that, that's another reason why I've hung around so long. When a lot of people were looking for a change in job during and after the pandemic. When it comes to the dog handling side of pest control, at least, I love what I do. I would not have made it this far unless I did. It is not easy, but I like to think I make it look easy.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you do, I have no doubt you guys do a fantastic job. Well, this has been really good. I mean, I'm actually, I've been around dogs in pest control for a long time. This is fascinating stuff I did not know. So last thing, is there anything else you want people to know about diamond dogs, about dog detection, the open floor, anything you want to share before we go to our final uh, question part?
No, I think that a lot of people don't realize that this service is actually cyclical. Um, when it comes to bed bugs, that's something that's already been kind of mapped out. But I get a lot of weird looks and puzzled expressions when I talk about rodent detection or rat abatement. And I always tell people, think London, 1800s. We don't have IPM. We don't have these advanced chemical compounds to stop rodents in their tracks. We need something a little more proactive, and we need something just as eager to find a happy outcome as we do. At the end of the day, rodents are commensal. They are pests that live among us. They watch us as we live, and that's how they know when to get in and out of these areas. And it's just a lot more prevalent of a problem than we have come to realize.
Yeah.
And this could be a really big proactive step in evening the playing field, so to speak.
All right. Well, that's really good. Let's, like I said, this has been really interesting. I'm really glad you came on. So we're going to go ahead and bring Carissa back, and then we're just gonna have some questions, and we're each gonna answer them, and we'll kind of see how that goes. Let's see. This is the first one. Who wants to answer it first? We'll let Carissa answer it first because she's already seen it.
Knew it.
All right.
Sure.
Pretty much. Would you rather, Carissa, give up your smartphone or your computer? You have to give up one. What would it be, and
It's a
why?
tough one.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think I prefer to give up my computer, but then how am I gonna work off my smartphone? But your smartphone you can take it anywhere, so I'm probably have to say computer.
Yeah, so you would give up your computer and get fired, and then you'd have then you only have a phone for a couple months. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, no, that makes sense. I mean, it's really funny and we all do it. We all rely on our phone so much. Alex, what do you
Mhm.
think?
Oh, I would take this computer, boom, that thing's going out the window. I am on my phone. When I was at Pest World, I did not bring my laptop because, I won't need that. It's only 4 days. Of course, phone stops. As soon as I leave my territory, phone starts ringing. And then I kind of had no other choice. I had to dive into my Word app on my phone, and I learned how to, I can invoice on my phone. That's it. Don't need this computer. No,
Yeah.
I can do everything right here. Plus, I'm on the move. My my high score for bedbug work is 5 states in one day.
Wow.
Although
That's pretty
one
good.
of those states was Delaware, so I don't know if you can count it.
Well, 4.5. No, I'm kidding.
There
Sorry,
you go.
Delaware.
Well,
Sorry,
close
Delaware.
enough.
Just joking. Just joking. Um, I would love to give up my phone and keep my computer because one of the things with my phone is it was small, and the older I get, but I get so frustrated. But reality, I think I'd have to give up the computer because you obviously can, but it would be very difficult to function in the world today without a cell phone.
What kind of phone you got?
With it's an Android S22 Plus.
Oh, good old Android. I'm an Android user too. Nice.
Yeah,
Marissa, what
yeah.
do you got?
Well,
I have an
let's
iPhone.
iPhone.
I
Yeah,
thought so.
I like to be able to make my own choices. Sorry, Apple, but anyway, okay, we'll move on. We'll move on. Uh,
Took the
would,
words out
would,
of my mouth.
there you go. This is a series of questions that are kind of what if, or what's your choice? Would you? And I'll answer this one first. Would you rather lose all of your money or all of your pictures? And I think that's a really good question.
Mhm.
Ooh.
Now we have a lot of pictures that get stored up in the cloud, stuff like that. Those all go to. I have no access to any pictures at all.
I think
That's
so.
tough.
I think I'd keep the money. I can remember some things and I can recreate. I can take new pictures of my cats, and I think I'd keep the money. Carissa?
I'd have to agree. That's a hard one. It's like sentimental versus like reality because you need money. You can't just drain all of your money for some pictures. All you're gonna be left with is no house and some pictures.
Yeah, you're gonna be laying in the dish with all looking out of your pictures. Yeah, I
I
mean,
get
Yeah,
it.
no.
I get
We're
the
gonna have to go 3 for
sentimental
3
side.
here. I feel like I have tons of memories that I can keep up here,
yeah.
but if I have to start from scratch, man. But it's like, when you ever break your phone, you lose everything on that phone. But
Mhm.
yeah, we can always start over.
It builds up. Yeah,
Yeah.
you kind of forget a lot of that stuff. All right, last question. Here we go. It kind of the same topic. If you could be guaranteed one thing in life besides money, uh,
Ooh.
what would it be? We'll make Chris answer that first because she's had time to think about it.
I haven't
That's
thought about
that's a tough one.
if you could get I guess like if you could guarantee one thing, like to never be disappointed. Like that you would always be not
Wow.
disappointed. That's a big
That-
one, I know.
no, that's like so like mind-blowingly wise. I mean, yeah, that's a pretty good one. Like that's a really good answer. Alex, what do you think?
I would say a long, happy life with my friends and family.
Ah, you can't say that. That's like saying money.
You cheated. You wish for more wishes. I would say
That's like world peace. You can't say world peace either. All right, go
I
ahead.
mean, I don't know if that's. I think we're past that goal.
Yeah.
Let's not get political. I feel like if I could have anything,
Yeah. Guaranteed one thing in life besides money and love your family, your loved ones, that kind of stuff.
cool. I'd have my dogs live forever.
There you go. That's a great
a good one.
answer.
John.
That's a great answer. That's a great answer. If I could be guaranteed one thing in life besides money, what would it be? Oh my gosh. That disappointment's a good one. I would just have to say like just serenity, calm, like
Mhm.
things going smoothly and just not up and down, and just a relaxed kind of lifestyle environment, and just not having to get too worried about stuff, I think is my answer. So but money helps you with that too, so I don't know, it's tough. But well, Alex, listen, man, this has been a lot of fun, and really good, interesting topics. I mean, I learned a lot about bed bug dogs, and I didn't, or not bed detection dogs that I did
Scent
not know.
detection
So
canines.
canines, thank you. I shouldn't say dogs. but we won't tell them they are dogs, but they are dogs. All
I'll never
right.
tell.
All right. Well, listen, man, have a great rest of the day. And we'll see each other soon. And thanks again. We really appreciate it.
Ray, Carissa, it was great chatting with you guys. Thanks for having me on.
All right. You guys take it easy. Everybody out there, have a great day. We'll see you soon. Thank you for joining us.
See you next time.